Welcome back. Tonight we've got a BMW X1. I think it's the X-Drive model. So today I'm going to show you how to change the rear brake pads without a diagnostic tool. I do have the diagnostic tool, but what's the fun in that? So I'll just show you how to do it. There's little motors on the calipers that you can manipulate to be able to change these pads without the use of a diagnostic tool. So what I've done is I started the engine, I then released the handbrake button right there, and then I turned the engine off. So the handbrake is now staying off, and if you look, I give the thing a little wobble back and forward, you should be able to see the wheel is free, and it's just the gearbox that's actually holding it in place. This is the manual version. Yeah, sorry, the automatic version. So just the gearbox that's holding it in place. So the first job is I'm just going to take these wheels off and see what we're dealing with. So on the BMWs, what you're looking for, I don't know if you can see this little arrow on the sill, which corresponds with this big plastic square thing here. So that's where you want to put your jack on there. If you put a jack on there, that's the best place to jack it from, so we'll do that. Now I've got the jack in the appropriate point, I can then crack off these wheel nuts. With the wheel off, this is what you're faced with. We've got the caliper here. But the thing we're going to look at is this little motor on the back. It's held on with two 5mm Allen key bolts. So I'll just take you around the back and see that. We've got one there, and one up behind us. There we go, there's the number 2 up there. So what I'm going to do at this moment in time, I'm not going to remove these bolts, I'm just going to crack them off and then get on with the rest of the caliper, but you'll see why I'm doing that in a minute. So I'm just going to crack these 2 nuts off. Now that I've cracked those little nuts off, again I've just backed them off so they're nice and easy to get off when I actually require them off. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go for these little dust caps at the back. So these should contain a little 7mm. 7mm, basically most brakes are a 7mm Allen key. So get that. Again, I'm just going to crack these off. I'm not going to completely remove them at the moment, just crack them off, that one and that one. Now I'm happy that those slide bolts there are loose. I need to get this clip off. So there's little hooks, a little hook in there, a little hook in there. So you basically got to push this bit back and then out, and that should bring this clip off. So I'll probably need a pry bar. So maybe we'll get it. No, pry bar, I think. Just got to take a pry bar and unhook it. And that's how I've done it. I've got the pry bar rested against the side of the disc. That allowed me to push that bit there. So if I just push it with the pry bar and then use my other hand just to sort of unhook it and pull it out of the way. Just like that. So the next thing I want to do is I've got a wear sensor in here. I've got a new one, so I'm just going to be replacing it. So just follow the wire all the way up behind the shock and clips in here. There's a little connector in here, so I just pull this off like so and disconnect that. So wear sensor disconnected. There she is. You can pull it out or you can leave it in, it's up to yourself. I'm just going to leave it there just now. So now I can get to these 7mm Allen key bolts. I'm going to remove them completely and hopefully get this caliper off. So, remove them, still there, but they're not touching, not engaging with the disc anymore, the caliper anymore. So this will be probably a bit tight, probably stick a pry bar in there and just leave it out, or you can get a little hammer and just start tapping it. So just want to get it out in that direction. That's it off now. Just get this wear sensor out of the way. One of the pads is stuck to the thing, it should just push off. There we go. So that's one, the other one's in here, 2. So what I'm going to do now is I'm now going to remove those 2 bolts that we cracked off earlier, the little 5mm ones. I'm going to remove that. That's going to take the motor off the side of the caliper, because my main aim at this point is I need to wind this back, but the motor will stop me doing that. I need to get the motor off, and I'll show you how you do that. That's those two bolts being removed. So on this particular one bolt is longer than the other. So I've made a mental note that the longer one goes into this hole on this particular one. But just keep an eye out for that. Make sure you get the, if you're one bolt longer than the other, make sure you remember where they went. So I'm going to just take the motor off the back. You see the gap appearing there. So again, this will be a wee bit tight, so just be gentle. Just try to be gentle with it as you're trying to sort of persuade it to come off. So just take your time. Sorry folks, spotted another little bolt in there. See it? And then crack that one off too. So there should be 3 bolts on this. So make that 2 bolts of one size and a slightly smaller one in the centre on this. So now this should come off with not too much trouble. Just need to give it a little wiggle. I'll need my 2 hands for it. Now that the motor has been removed, just sort of give it a wiggle outwards. It's a little different for the last time I did one of these. Normally, this little pin lives. This little pin here actually lives inside here, so it leaves you sort of Torx type fitting in here, where a T45 Torx fits in here perfectly. However, this one's back to front. You can turn it with your fingers. It's a bit tight, so but I've got some reverse Torx which will do the job. This is an E14. It should be really an E12 would fit better, but I can't find that one at the moment. But E14 is fine. So what we'll need to do, I do it with 2 hands. If you gently turn this just a little bit, you can get a piston in there. You can actually push the piston with your thumb at the same time as you turn that there. You find that you maybe turn that half a turn and it'll let you push it in a little bit. Turn that half a turn, it'll let you push it in a bit. You just keep persevering doing that and you'll get it all the way back in. There we go, pushed it all the way home. So what I kind of did there on this one, I turned it clockwise about half a turn, and then I had to put my 2 thumbs on this because it's a wee bit tight. My 2 thumbs, and you push it and it'll go so far and then stop. Once it stops, go back there, turn it another half turn, push it till it stops. So you keep doing that, and there we go. We've got the piston all the way back. So all I'm going to do is build these brakes back up and put the motor back on. So from here pretty much it's a straightforward brake job. So what I'm going to do is these little mating surfaces where the pads sit, I'm just going to get a little screwdriver, scratch them out, make sure they're nice and clean, get a wire brush and give them a little rub down. So now I'm happy those little recesses are cleaned up with the screwdriver and wire brushed. So next thing I do is I'm going to check out my pads. So these ones here, you notice that one's different. One's got a metal clip on it, like so. So, and also the tap bit, the top bits are different. That one's got a hook running that way. That one's got a hook going 2 ways. So for what I figured out by looking at the old pads, is the one with the metal clip goes in the inside. That goes in here, and the one without goes in here, and the wear indicator goes into this one with the metal clip. So now that I've figured that out, again just to double check, put the old pad against the new pad, make sure that all the dimensions are correct. I'm happy that that's the correct pad. So let's go open this up. I'm going to put some grease here, here, here and here. So that's what I've done with that. The main reason for grease, not only does it lubricate it, but any sort of noise is actually a vibration. So sometimes you'll maybe hear you hit the brakes and some squealing noises or something like that. What that noise is actually when the pad's allowed to vibrate. When it vibrates, it creates a sound. So when you put a blob of grease on it, it dampens any movement, and therefore it dampens any sound. So what I'm going to do now is go put a little grease on the pads as well. So what I'm going to do again, get the mating surfaces here, right over here, and the same at the bottom. and I'll put a blob on the back as well, because that's where the piston is going to be touching. So I'll do that in both pads, top, bottom, and a blob in the middle. Something like that, it's just fine. So as you can see, this is copper grease. So a lot of people don't use this anymore. Use the sort of silicon based stuff or something like that. I know somebody's going to comment on there that the BMWs probably use that from the factory, the silicon type stuff. But I've done hundreds of them, and I still use the copper grease, no problems whatsoever. If someone can give me a very good reason not to use copper grease, then please drop us a wee comment. But it works, does the trick, and stops all the vibrations. Copper grease is like a tried and tested grease for assembling brakes, so I don't really see the point in changing. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put this caliper back on and put the 2 bolts in, or 2 slide pins in. Before we put it in, what I'm going to do is just check these slide pins go in and out nice and easily. And these are a little bit tight, so I'm not quite happy with that. So what I'm going to do is just give them a little clean up with the wire brush. Not too bad. A little clean up with the wire brush, and just a smear of grease over it. And then when I put it in, back in here, I want it to be able to push it back and forward quite easily. So that's what I'm going to do with these 2. I'm happy with them now. Slide in, lovely. So now I'm going to put the caliper back on. Just line those bolts up. But before I go any further, I'm going to put this new wear sensor in. So we know as it goes on the inside pad in this one here. If you look at the end of it, you've got like a bulb area. If you can see that, see the bulb. One side's flat, one side's not. So the side that's not flat, the side with the bulb on it goes towards the disc. So in this case, it'll click in this way. So just push it in. Right, 2 hands I think. That's it, pushed all the way home. And again, remember the bulb sits towards the disc. But just as well, I struggled with that a little bit because I didn't even notice that the little metal clip that sits here isn't actually fixed very well on there. So when I was messing about with that, I happened to notice it fell off and landed on the floor. So just as well that there's a little stiff in there, or else I wouldn't have noticed that. So just be mindful about that, the little pin falling off. So I'm just going to tighten these back up and put the motor back on. So that's them tightened up, and I'll put a little caps on them. A lot of times when you sort of work on brakes, you notice that these are missing. And some that was obviously the last person that's done it has put them together and forgotten all about them, so it's a good point. Put them on just now. And what I'm going to do actually, I'm going to go for a spring. Put a spring back on. This one at the front. Now, you should be able to get these on by hand, but sometimes they just need a wee bit of persuasion, so like maybe a wee screwdriver or a little tap with a hammer or something will get them in. You want to put them in at a slight angle. Let's see if I can get you a better slight angle, because mindful there's little hooks here and here, and this is the spring part of it. So if you put it in at a slight sort of 45-degree angle like this, and push it in that direction, hopefully, there we go, it's almost in, there we go, that's it. Just make sure that it's hooked there, and it's resting on the outer carrier of the brake pad. So I'm happy with that, that's good to go. So let's pop this motor back on. Again, there's little teeth here, so just wiggle it a little bit until you get the teeth to line up. Let's see what we got. Right, there we go, that's it. Now we've got that to line up. We can just put those 3 bolts in. Remember on this one it was the long one here, long one at the other side, and the middle one was slightly shorter. So put them back in. So that's the motor back on. So just need to route this thing back the way I found it. So if I can remember, it's up there somewhere, up there, and up there. So I'll put that one back in, and that's all back together. Wear sensor back in. This side is just about done, so I can get this wheel back on and move over and do exactly the same on the other side. But if you hang about, I'll show you how to what you've got to do when it comes to resetting the pistons on the back. Now that's the passenger side finished and the wheels all torqued up. So the last thing you want to do anytime you mess about the brakes, particularly when you've got this electric handbrake thing with the motors on it, is make sure you pump the pedal, pump the pedal lots and lots until it goes really hard. Then start the car. I'll do this again. Start the car. Okay, give it a few more pumps. Then I'm going to put the handbrake on now. There we go. It wound quite a wee bit there because what's happening is you could have wound it all the way back. Handbrake's got to wind in, so it wound quite a bit there. Again, take it off. That's it. Back on. That's it. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. So that, my friends, is how you turn this off. So that, my friends, is how you change the rear brakes on pretty much any BMW with that same sort of motor on the back of the wheels, the back of the calipers. So if you like what you see, don't forget, like, comment and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.